Discover the incredible love that transformed a cowboy's home. She makes us happy, Papa. Jack Morgan stood on the weathered porch of his family ranch, the sun hanging tightly in a cloudless sky as sweat trickled down his brow. It was sweltering in July, and the heat wrapped around him like a heavy blanket. The laughter of his children, Maggie and Ethan, had once filled this place, but now it felt like a hollow shell, one that echoed only his solitude and grief. 3 years had passed since the love of his life left this world, and each day he was reminded of the responsibility of raising 2 spirited children while wrestling with his own loneliness. Today he needed help. That's why he hired Lily Thompson, a ranch hand with a bright smile and an enthusiasm that he so desperately needed but feared could tear the fragile fabric of their delicate existence. As he watched her effortlessly connect with Maggie and Ethan, he couldn't ignore the knot tightening in his gut. They chased after her, laughter erupting like the joyful notes of a forgotten song, while he stood silently, a ghost of a man, in the shadow of what once was. "She makes us happy, Papa," they exclaimed, each joyful proclamation tightening the vice around his heart. What did that mean for him? Could he allow someone new into their lives without feeling the weight of betrayal to his late wife? Staring into Lily's infectious grin, Jack felt a flicker of warmth, but followed it with a rush of guilt. The emptiness of their home pulsed around him, and as he wrestled with the tension of allowing joy back into their lives, his mind raced with overwhelming thoughts of loss that had become a grim feature of his daily responsibilities. Weeks melted into each other, the Texas sun relentless as Jack tried to keep balance. Each day he'd witness Lily in her element, tending to the chores and coaxing laughter out of his children, reminders of a life that once seemed so vibrant. He felt driven by the belief that he should protect them, but he also felt trapped by a suffocating fear. Was he ready to rediscover joy? Would he risk facing rejection all over again? Just when he thought he could take a step forward, news arrived. A letter brimming with menace. A corporate notice that threatened his family land, summoning him to court, exploiting a loophole he never saw coming. The letter crumpled in his hands, and his mind raced with panic. Losing the ranch would mean losing the very heart of his children's happiness, the legacy his wife had wanted for them. "What am I going to do?" he muttered under his breath, grappling with both the threat and the emotional storm swirling around him, each feeling colliding inside like wild stallions. Jack's instinct was to barricade himself away, to shut out the sun and the laughter that wasn't supposed to happen without his wife. But Lily was there, steadfast as the Texas oaks, her presence reshaping his world in ways he was struggling to recognize. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With rage and determination merging in his chest, Jack resolved to confront the looming legal battle head-on, steeling himself for a fight, yet feeling painfully hesitant. Could he truly put everything on the line when it felt like clouds of despair still lingered? He wrestled with a whirlwind of thoughts, how he was torn between a gentle yearning for connection and the desire to protect the lives they had once built. The joyful sounds of his kids echoed in stark contrast to the turmoil in his heart, beckoning him to make a choice. As the reality of the impending standoff crept closer, fear gnawed at his insides, leaving him at a crossroads. He could choose the solitude echoing in his past, or risk unveiling the possibility of love that might bloom once more in the shadows of his daunting struggle. A reckoning was coming, and Jack could feel it deep in his bones. Would he stand alone, or could he embrace the uncertain promise of something more? Jack took a deep breath, letting the steamy air fill his lungs as he stared out at the sprawling expanse of his ranch. Each sunbeam that broke through the haze seemed to mock his uncertainty. The land that had been so full of life felt suffocating now, a reminder of the weight of loss and impending defeat. Striding back inside, he tossed the crumpled letter onto the kitchen table, its threat now swirling with memories of Sunday dinners and laughter. He was tired of holding on to grief. It was time to decide what he wanted for his family's future. In the quiet moments spent observing Lily and the children together, he felt an insistent whisper that something inside him was emerging from its dormant state, craving more than mere survival. He wanted to prioritize the happiness of Maggie and Ethan, to provide them with a sanctuary that echoed joy rather than silence. But the question still loomed. Could he integrate this new light in their lives without feeling as though he was betraying his past? Driving to town to gather information about the legal issues that plagued him, he was struck by how distant he felt from the world outside the ranch. The aroma of fresh hay, the sounds of distant neighbors, the spirit of the community, all had faded into a dull drone. Yet, as he parked and strolled toward the local legal office, purpose fueled each step. He was walking toward a confrontation, not just with the businesses threatening his land, but also with himself. Inside, the clerk was busy typing away, but when she looked up and recognized him, her expression shifted to concern. "You look troubled, Jack. Is everything all right?" The question reverberated in his mind. Everything was not all right, but there was something in the way she cared that sparked the echo of his own desire to confront his fears. "I need to know what my options are," he replied, forcing his voice to remain steady despite the tempest inside. As the clerk began detailing potential defenses based on the legal loopholes, Jack's mind started racing. He felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps losing his land wasn't inevitable. The idea of persevering, of ensuring that his children could inherit their home, ignited a vigor within him. However, it was clear that the fight was not going to be easy. With each detail that unfolded, Jack understood he would require allies. The thought of reaching out to his neighbors for support felt unfamiliar, yet necessary. He had to stop hiding in his grief and take charge of the destiny that lay ahead. Returning home, his heart was lighter, yet weighed down by the enormity of the battle he was about to fight. Again, he observed Lily as she played with the children outside, laughter ringing out like bells. A wave of conflicting emotions crashed over him. The desire to keep them protected, the urge to let new connections flourish, to allow happiness back into their lives without the burden of guilt. That night, with the setting sun casting long shadows across the ranch, Jack sat beneath the vast starry sky. It was time to make a choice about his future and his children's happiness. He felt an undercurrent of determination, one that insisted it was possible to carve a path that honored both his wife's memory and his own needs. With the roar of the wind in the distance and visions of battle ahead coursing through him, Jack stood up and made a decision. He would call a meeting with the neighbors, share the legal troubles that loomed over them all. This was not just about him. This was about rebuilding trust, community, and the very foundation he had retreated from. It would be the beginning of the pursuit for not only the survival of the ranch, but a roadmap back to living fully again. The moment of truth approached, and Jack felt it like wildfire inside his chest. Would the community rally beside him in this challenge, or would he stand alone, bearing the weight of their shared history? He inhaled deeply, ready to take the first step into the unknown. The sun climbed high the next morning, casting golden rays that illuminated the dusty corners of Jack's kitchen. A robust sense of purpose surged through him, compelling him to take definitive action. He couldn't bear the weight of solitary despair anymore. Today was about solidarity, not isolation. As he stood by the window, he observed Lily tending to the garden, her carefree laughter mixing harmoniously with that of Maggie and Ethan frolicking in the sun. Each giggle tugged at something deep within him, a reminder of joy's persistence even in the aftermath of loss. How could he let fear dictate their happiness when every cheerful moment reaffirmed the world's capacity for love and joy? Gripping the edge of the countertop, Jack felt a new resolve crystallizing. Today, he would share his burdens with those who understood them best, his neighbors. But with this plan came a swell of dread. What if they dismissed his concerns? What if they were indifferent to the plight of the ranch and to his grief? He glanced at the crumpled letter he'd carelessly tossed aside. No longer a token of defeat, it transformed into a catalyst for change. He would breathe life back into his community ties rather than retreat into silence. After a quick breakfast, Jack composed an invitation letter for a gathering later that week. It was a simple request, but bold in its intent. He felt vulnerable. Was this self-serving? No, it was a necessary strike against his instinct to withdraw. The children needed something to believe in, a reason to smile each day that he wouldn't let fall away in the shadow of despair. Later that day, he decided to pay a visit to a few neighbors personally. As he knocked on doors, apprehension tinged his earnestness. But each time a friendly face greeted him and responded warmly, an ember of conviction flared within. They remembered him, not just as the grieving widower, but as the hard-working man who once helped fix fences and shared fireside tales. "We've all faced trials," said Sarah, a fellow rancher whose own land teetered perilously close to foreclosure. The resonance of her shared plight inspired something latent within Jack. "Let's meet up and sort this out as friends." Nods of agreement circled the small gathering at her home, and with each voice that joined the conversation, he felt renewed strength pooling in his chest. They shared stories, revealing personal struggles that paralleled his own, intertwining their histories, and creating a thread of shared experience. Hope pushed back against the tide of despair. As evening fell, Jack found solace in the voices that surrounded him. They hadn't just connected over shared woes, they had forged an alliance built on perseverance. Each shared laugh and heartfelt confession blended into a tapestry of renewed resilience. Driving home, the landscape unfolding before him appeared brighter, more alive. The uncertainty still loomed in the distance, but now it felt manageable. He wasn't alone. There was strength in their collective aim. That night, as he tucked the children into bed, their peaceful faces illuminated by a soft nightlight, he was seized by an idea, an unexpected revelation about himself. He could lead them not just through legal battles, but through a better way of living, one paved with connection and mutual care. But just as he turned off the light and stepped back, an ominous thought intruded upon his newfound clarity. What if his legal battle bore bitter fruit? What if everything he was building, all the hope he started to feel, came crashing down? The flicker of doubt ignited a dangerous question. Was he standing on the edge of a precipice, or had he truly begun to redefine his life? Tomorrow would bring clarity, but for now, the storm of uncertainty simmered just beneath the surface. His voice trembling yet resolute, he whispered to himself, "I have to believe in something greater than fear." But would that belief hold under pressure? Or would he find himself lost again as the true weight of the coming challenge loomed closer? As dawn broke the next day, Jack found himself staring at the sun filtering through the blinds, the light dancing across his kitchen table. There was a fresh caution in his heart. Yesterday's spark had ignited a renewed sense of purpose, but today felt different. The excitement of gathering his neighbors weighed against an unshakable burden of uncertainty. Could he truly lead them when he himself was still finding his way? He moved through the familiar motions of breakfast, but his mind was elsewhere. The echoes of last night's conversations lingered. His neighbors had shared fears that mirrored his own. Yet inside those shared admissions lay uncharted potential, a foundation upon which to build something resilient. It wouldn't be easy, but this time he couldn't afford to let doubt anchor him. After the last plate had been washed, Jack took a deep breath and grabbed a notebook from the drawer. Maybe he could create a plan, something tangible to root this nebulous vision in reality. He could write down the goals of their gathering, the outcomes he hoped to achieve. The thought made his palms sweat, but he pushed the discomfort aside and started to write. Ideas struck him like lightning. They could share resources, knowledge about land management, access to equipment, or even just emotional support. He paused, pen hovering over the page, and considered the children's faces. Lily, Ethan, and Maggie represented resilience. What type of future did he want to cultivate for them? One filled with fear or with community? The question shook him. He would be the architect of their shared future, not just another participant riding the tide of chaos. This revelation transformed his nervous energy into clarity. With each word written, he felt a sense of purpose cementing. Once done, he set the notebook down with resolve and prepared for the day ahead. He had promised to stop by Sarah's farm again. It was time to dig deeper into the roots of their shared struggles. As he drove along the winding roads, the vastness of the landscape mirrored the enormity of his ambitions. The tension within him transformed into a pulsating drive. If he wanted to lead effectively, he had to understand what they were facing, not just conceptually, but intimately. Upon arriving, the early morning dew glistened in the grass, giving an air of hope. Jack spotted Sarah in the distance, engaged in chores. As he approached, he greeted her with a newfound enthusiasm. "We need to talk about what's next for all of us," he said, hoping his urgency resonated. Sarah paused, wiping her brow. "You've got something on your mind?" "I think we have a chance to get ahead of this. Our struggles are similar, and if we can band together, maybe we can share ideas, pool resources, and strategize for the upcoming months." His words hung heavily in the air, and fear gripped his gut. What if she dismissed him? But instead, a flicker of recognition passed over her face. "Let's not just survive, let's elevate each other. If you're willing to put the effort in, I'm in." With a collective agreement, they dove into discussions about potential solutions, each idea opening more doors than it closed. Jack's confidence grew exponentially with every exchange. His narrative began to shift. He wasn't merely presenting himself as a burdensome leader, but as a beacon, someone who could guide the way forward through deliberate actions rooted in shared experience. But as the conversation deepened, a shadow crossed his thoughts. Sarah relayed a particularly troubling piece of news regarding a nearby ranch, its foreclosure imminent due to mounting debts and failed crops. The time had come to face the broader implications of their plight. What if their alliance was too fragile, tested by unforeseen setbacks? The thrill of progress collided with anxiety as the stakes crystallized. It was no longer just about him and his small circle. It was about creating real change amidst adversity. Jack could almost hear the whisperings of that doubt again, but instead he squared his shoulders. This was the threshold of a new chapter. Whatever happened next would define not just him, but all of them, forged together in hope and resilience. As he prepared to leave, Jack felt the weight of his aspirations anchor him. The enormity of what lay ahead loomed like a sprawling mountain range, filled with promise, yet cloaked in uncertainty. What he didn't know was if the path would be smooth or fraught with peril. But as he glanced back at Sarah, he recognized a kindred spirit, willing to forge ahead despite the risks. And in that moment, standing at the brink of collective inquiry, Jack realized he might have found the missing piece of his life's puzzle. But in the following days, the horizon would reveal deeper challenges, and the true test of his resolve was just beginning. The real question remained: would they be able to rise together, or would doubt fracture their budding unity? The sun dipped lower in the sky by the time Jack returned home, casting long shadows across his porch. He felt a newfound connection to Sarah and a sense of determination that buzzed beneath his skin. But the weight of uncertainty still loomed ahead. The realization that their efforts might be insufficient nagged at him like an uninvited guest. What if their tentative alliances couldn't withstand external pressures? Sitting at the kitchen table, he flipped open the notebook he had filled with ideas. The ink smudged slightly, evidence of the urgency with which he had written only hours prior. With a deep breath, he began to categorize his thoughts, trying to translate his aspirations into actionable steps. He wrote headers: resource sharing, knowledge exchange, community building, and under each he noted specific tasks, deadlines, and potential partners in the area. As he wrote, a familiar voice echoed in his mind, the whispers of self-doubt. Where had such ambition come from? Past experiences had taught him the fragility of good intentions. What if the community rejected his attempts? He shook the thought away as he scribbled faster, using the act of writing as armor against his insecurities. Later that evening, Jack decided to venture out, seeking perspective and clarity. He wandered through the nearby nature trails he once frequented as a child. The trees stood tall and unmoving, their roots gripping the earth with fierce determination, something he longed to feel himself. Each step in the soft earth gave him time to ponder the implications of his pursuits. He was, after all, asking people to trust him, to join him in the unknown. What if he failed them? The thought prickled at his conscience like thorns on a rose. More than the fear of failure, however, was the dread of the consequences that would ripple through the community if they couldn't unite. Jack understood now that the future of not just his family, but multiple families rested in his hands. The stakes had morphed from self-interest to collective responsibility. Returning home as dusk settled, he caught a glimpse of Lily sitting on the living room floor surrounded by art supplies. She was lost in her own world, painting with vibrant colors on a large sheet of paper. Jack felt a rush of affection for her innocent creativity and thought about how he wanted to expand that freedom to her and the others. When his gaze fell on the hopeful strokes she made, he was struck with inspiration. "Hey, kiddo, want to help me with something tomorrow?" he asked, kneeling beside her. Her eyes lit up, and she nodded eagerly. "Yes, what are we doing?" "I need to talk to some friends of mine. I want to show them how we can work together, just like you are doing with your painting. Think you can come up with something for them?" She tilted her head, pondering his words. "I can show them how to paint, too. We can make a big mural." Jack smiled, buoyed by her enthusiasm. There it was again, a flicker of hope that reminded him why he started this journey in the first place. If he could nurture their skills, inspire them to motivate others, perhaps they could weave a tapestry of resilience. As the night deepened and silence wrapped around them, Jack felt an ember of resolve ignite. Tomorrow would require more than just strength. He would need to rally himself and his ideas into something actionable, not merely to guide, but to inspire. Little did he know, an unexpected visitor would challenge not only his convictions, but his very resolve. Would he find the strength to confront a rival who threatened to derail everything he'd worked to build? The weight of that soon-to-come confrontation loomed like the darkening sky, ready to crash on his fledgling hopes. As dawn broke, painting the sky with hues of orange and gold, Jack paced the kitchen, the energy from last night's revelations pulsating through him. The plan he had sketched felt simultaneously exciting and terrifying, as if each line drawn represented a choice between safety and risk. Today held promise, a chance to ignite a spark of collaboration, fueled by Lily's enthusiasm and his growing determination. He glanced at the clock, the ticking reminding him that time was both friend and foe. Moments from now, he would step into the realm of uncertainty. He gathered his notes, a palpable mix of adrenaline and apprehension churning in his stomach. Each bullet point contained not just tasks, it represented the faith he was asking others to place in him. Before leaving, he knelt next to Lily, who was still dreaming in vibrant colors across her paper. "Remember the mural? The one we'll create together?" He smiled, a reflection of the hope she unknowingly offered him. "I want you to think big. What do you want this mural to express?" Her eyes sparkled with the innocent wonder only children possess. "Joy, Papa, and all the colors of our hearts." His heart swelled, and for a moment he was anchored in clarity. If joy was the intent, perhaps he could foster it through this venture. But as he stepped into the sunlight, Jack's resolve wavered with each stride toward the coffee shop, where his friends gathered for their weekly meet-up. A patch of shadow crossed his path, a foreboding sign that made him question if this was the right place for such ambitious dreams. Would they embrace or reject his ideas? He pictured Sarah's encouraging smile, damn near telepathically willing him forward, and pushed through the glass door. The atmosphere filled with chatter, and he spotted Tom and Lisa waving him over. Yet, the moment his hand met the doorknob, apprehension surged. "Hey, Jack," Tom called out. A smile plastered on his face, but beneath it, Jack read something that sparked unease. He took a seat, taking a moment to soak in the familiarity of the space, seeking mental grounding. "What's on your mind, buddy?" Lisa probed, eyes attentive. Jack began sharing his aspirations, explaining how he wanted to promote collaboration among them. He unveiled the ideas he had scribbled down, the very ones loaded with hope for the future. Voices mingled, hesitation layered over enthusiasm, as each member offered notions of support or raised the red flags of practicality. Yet one voice cut through the murmur. Derek, a longtime skeptic. "Look, Jack," he said, crossing his arms, "I get it. It sounds good on paper, but you really think it's feasible? People here have their own lives to deal with. You think a mural is going to pull all that together?" Jack felt the air thicken, each word triggering his insecurities. The reasonably persuasive tone made him pause. Was he naive to think a painting, no matter how colorful, could unify different lives? There it was, the ghost of doubt seeping in once again, ready to extinguish his fire. Yet he noticed something different in himself today. The onslaught of doubt felt familiar, but rather than crumbling under it, he imagined Lily's eager face, imagining the potential blooming from her untainted spirit. He felt the ember flare within him, fortifying his stance. "No," Jack asserted, finding his voice stronger than he had anticipated. "I believe that it can. Together we can create something meaningful, something that might shift perspectives. We just need to start somewhere." Derek raised an eyebrow, skepticism mixed with curiosity. Just then, Jack felt the invisible line drawn in the sand. This wasn't merely about art. It was about belief, about resilience against doubters. As the discussion deepened, Jack realized how much navigating this moment echoed the challenges he faced within himself. Every counterpoint shaped him, forcing him to refine his vision. When it ended, he held a quiet confidence. Ideas started to form bridges instead of walls. Yet leaving the meeting, a knot of anxiety still rested in his gut. The echo of Derek's words trailed behind him, creating a cloud of uncertainty, from which one question emerged. Would he have what it takes to push through? Or would the pressure of skepticism drown the vision of joy he desperately wanted to embody for Lily and himself? A few hours later, Jack received an unexpected message from Sarah that hinted at troubling news. Why was she reaching out now, in whispers of frustration? His chest tightened, and he felt the urgency build once again. It was time to confront whatever lay ahead. Would he navigate this new storm, or would he falter when it mattered most? Jack stared at his phone, the faint glow from the screen illuminating his anxious expression. Sarah's message danced in his mind like an unsolved puzzle. He felt compelled to respond, yet doubt clawed at him. His pulse quickened at the thought of what she might be going through, and within seconds he typed a reply, hoping to unravel the urgency behind her words. "Hey, Sarah, I'm here. What's going on?" The seconds that ticked away felt like an eternity. He stepped outside for a breath of fresh air, hoping it would clear the haze of uncertainty swirling in his mind. It was a typical suburban evening, with families gathered in backyards, and the scent of grilled burgers wafting through the air, seemingly oblivious to the storm brewing within him. When Sarah's reply came, it was brief but heavy. "I need to talk. Can you meet me?" His stomach twisted. Meetings with Sarah often felt loaded with subtext, and as he drove to their designated spot, he wrestled with scenarios. Would they find common ground, or would this spiral into an argument, fueling the fire of doubt he desperately wished to extinguish? Arriving at the quiet park, Jack noticed Sarah standing by a swing set, her back turned. The way her posture slumped hinted at the burden she carried, and instantly Jack felt a pang of empathy. "Sarah," he called softly. She turned, her eyes reflecting a mix of frustration and resignation. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice carrying traces of vulnerability. "I don't know how to say this, but—" As she began to speak, Jack immediately sensed that her struggles mirrored his own. This was about more than just her. This was about both of them. She revealed that she felt overwhelmed, weighed down by expectations, both from herself and those around her. "Sometimes I just wish we could breathe, Jack. Everything feels like it's pulling us apart instead of together." His heart sank at her words. They rung eerily familiar to the doubts rattling within him about the mural. How could he express that he was in the same boat, navigating the turbulent waters of ambition and fear? He didn't want to simply react, he needed to connect. "Sarah, I get it," he said, his voice firm yet tender. "I've been feeling the same way. I want to reach for something bigger, something joyful, but the weight of all this doubt, it's exhausting." Her gaze softened, and Jack felt a tentative bridge forming. "I want this mural to mean something for both of us. I thought if I could create a vision, it might help us reconnect, not just with each other, but with everyone around us." He watched as her expression shifted from frustration to contemplation. "You think that could really work? That something like this could pull us back together?" "I know it can." The warmth of belief surged within him. He began sketching out his vision again, every brushstroke representing an opportunity for healing and togetherness. Yet, just as momentum built within their conversation, a nagging doubt crept in, echoing Derek's skepticism from earlier. Sarah's struggles were substantial, and he wondered if his ambition could resonate with her realities. What if she couldn't see the mural as anything but a distraction? As if reading his mind, she replied, "It just feels like we're constantly at odds with the world, with each other." Jack leaned closer. "What if we changed our perspective? Instead of seeing this as a burden, let's find a way to ensure we both feel anchored in purpose." Their exchange transformed into a tug-of-war between optimism and reality. And through it, Jack discovered something vital about himself. His decision-making had the power to shape their journey. As daylight waned, a sense of clarity enveloped him amid the evolving chaos, but it didn't settle the storm within. Perhaps this was only the beginning, an awakening to win back what he had feared losing. With a newfound determination, he proposed a plan to collaborate on the mural together, emphasizing that it wasn't merely about paint. It was about their connection, a way to manifest their hopes and rekindling joy. But as they sealed their intentions, Jack felt a renewed weight, a realization that this journey came laden with deeper challenges than mere artistic ambition. The question now loomed ominously. Would their combined efforts be enough to heal their fractures? And more pressingly, could art truly hold the power to alter the course of their lives? The gravity of it all settled heavily on his chest as he left Sarah that evening, sparking a moral dilemma within him. Was he prepared not just to pursue his vision, but also to support Sarah in hers? His mind raced with possibilities, each one more daunting and thrilling than the last, as he stepped back into the thickening night, uncertain of what awaited him next. The days that followed were a blur of activity. Jack buried himself in sketches, paint samples, and visions of a mural that would resonate with not only Sarah, but their entire community. Each pencil stroke brought forth a flurry of emotions. His doubt transformed into determination, but the whisper of uncertainty still lingered. Could this mural genuinely connect with Sarah, and would it be enough to bridge the chasm that had grown between them? He organized a workspace in his garage, littered with canvases and paint tubes, creating a sanctuary of creativity. Every morning he woke up early, fueled by the prospect of breathing purpose into the mural. Yet the gnawing doubt nudged him daily. Was he merely distracting himself from their relationship's fundamental issues? One evening, after another long day of working, Jack received a call from Derek. The enthusiasm in Derek's voice was palpable. "Jack, I stumbled across an art supply store that's closing down. They've got everything at half price. We should check it out. You want to come?" Though Jack felt the tug of hesitation at the thought of spending time with Derek, who had fiercely questioned the merit of the mural, the lure of discounted supplies caught his interest. He needed more than just belief. He needed resources. "Sure, let's go," Jack replied, keeping his tone light despite the simmering anxiety within. As they browsed the depleted shelves of the store, he was caught off guard when Derek confronted him out of nowhere. "What exactly are you trying to prove with this mural, man?" Derek asked, his eyes sharp. "You think painting something can fix your problems?" Jack's heart raced as he tried to calculate his response. "It's not just paint, Derek. It's about connection, about finding a way to talk through colors and images." Derek's laughter felt like a heavy blow.
"That's cute, but you think Sarah will find her way back just because you throw some paint on a wall? It's deeper than that." The edge in his voice ignited Jack's frustration. "Maybe you don't understand. This is about us reconnecting through something meaningful." The tension hung thick between them, Jack's pulse quickening with the thought of being dismissed again, questioning not just the mural's worth, but also the authenticity of his commitment to Sarah. He tumbled into reflection, attempting to understand why Derek's skepticism had struck such a nerve. Perhaps it wasn't just about the mural. It was about his own fear of inadequacy, the harsh mirror Derek held up. Could this endeavor truly foster understanding, or was he setting himself up for failure? That night, Jack couldn't shake Derek's words. As he stood before his blank canvas, the weight of his desire to make things right crowded his thoughts. What if he could not only create an art piece, but also a concrete platform for dialogue? What, he pondered nervously, he organized a community meeting, inspired by the mural's vision of unity. The idea felt electric, pulsating through him with a reckless abandon that overshadowed the past doubts that thrived in the shadows of his mind. There was fear, yes, but it was tinged with hope. Jack knew this would stretch his capabilities, demanding vulnerability that he had rarely shown. Yet, as the inkling of a plan solidified, an intense realization washed over him. Would he be willing to step into the arena and expose both the mural and himself to criticism? The significance of this would go beyond the brushstrokes. It beckoned him to confront not only his emotions, but to face the reactions of others, including Sarah herself. Was he ready to harness the potential power of art as a conduit for healing? With uncertainty swirling around, Jack made a decision. He would reach out to Sarah, share this newfound concept with her, and see if she believed in this risk as much as he did. It was time to finally confront the fear gnawing at his core, to show resilience against the backdrop of ambiguity that colored both their lives. As he drafted a text to Sarah, his fingers hovered over the screen briefly, hesitating to press send. What if this brought more doubt than clarity? But what Jack didn't know was that the invitation he was about to propose might change the course of everything, unraveling the deeper truths lingering beneath their surface, setting the stage for an encounter neither he nor Sarah could anticipate. Would courage guide him toward a resolution, or would this attempt expose a fracture too large to mend? As the night draped around him like a shroud, Jack felt himself on the precipice of discovery, both of his artistic ambition and the emotional journey that awaited them both. The screen lit up with a soft glow, illuminating Jack's face as he contemplated the message poised for delivery.
Words swirled in his mind, cascading over one another, demanding clarity before he could truly shape them into a meaningful invitation. Each potential phrase stirred his breath faster. The thought of reaching out to Sarah was both exhilarating and terrifying. This wasn't just a message, it was a lifeline. His heart pounded as he typed, each letter an act of defiance against the uncertainty that had cocooned their relationship for too long. The mural came to life in his imagination, a tapestry of shared memories, hopes, and unspoken words. As he wrote about the community meeting idea, however, doubt crept in like an unwelcome shadow. Would she see this as earnest or merely desperate? Was he ready for whatever her response might be? With a shaky breath, he pressed send. The moment lingered as uncertainty tangled with anticipation. What if her reply was the cold slap of reality he feared? While he waited for her response, Jack turned to his project, pouring his energy into the mural's design. Each stroke of the brush felt like a small victory, a step away from doubts that had long plagued him. Colors burst forth on his canvas, transforming the chaos of his thoughts into structured visions of unity and emotion. The mural became not just an expression of reconciliation with Sarah, but also an exploration of his own abilities to create meaning from turmoil. Hours dripped by as he painted, lost in the rhythm of brushes gliding over textured canvas. The bold colors ignited his spirit. Clarity took shape amidst the chaos. He began to understand this mural was less about illustrating their relationship and more about embarking on a challenge that mirrored the reconstruction of his own identity. He had porous edges to heal. Stitching together his creativity would, in turn, parallel mending emotional scars. In the midst of his artistic fervor, Jack received the dreaded ping of a message. With an anxious pulse, he looked down at his phone. Sarah's name flashed across the screen. A rush of adrenaline surged through him as he opened it, only to find her response short and curiously neutral. "I'm in. Let's talk more about it. When?" Her reply sparked a whirlwind of emotions. Relief mingled with fluttering excitement. Jack had braced for indifference. Instead, she had matched his courage. Her willingness to engage represented a crack in the veneer of their estrangement, a flicker of hope amidst uncertainty. The next few days were an intricate balancing act, ensuring his schedule allowed time to craft the mural while preparing for the conversation that would unfold. Jack found himself oscillating between feelings of optimism and the gnawing doubt that had become second nature. What if Sarah came with preconceived notions that suffocated the openness he sought? In his garage, he spun a practically defined schedule. Mornings for painting, afternoons for drafting ideas for the meeting, evenings dedicated to mental rehearsals for their talk.
Each plan anchored him deeper into his intentions. His determination forged new steel in his resolve. The idea of confrontation, which once loomed like a specter, evolved into a channel of promise. The possibility of unveiling layers of vulnerability, both from Sarah and himself. He meticulously considered the themes for the mural: rebirth, connection, and hope. He wanted it to personify not just their shared past, but also a vision for their future. As the paint dried and ideas crystallized, Jack realized he was crafting a visual metaphor of renewal, each layer potentially building a bridge back to Sarah. Time approached for their conversation, and Jack found himself unusually composed, riding waves of anticipation that now surged with purpose rather than fear. However, the night before, as he stood before the mural in its unfinished state, a deep rumble of anxiety reminded him of the fragility of relationships. Would all of this effort spark understanding, or would it expose vulnerabilities too raw to confront? The thought lingered like an echo in his mind. Jack pressed onward, knowing that the next chapter in his life depended not solely on the mural's completion, but on the strength of honesty that would accompany both paint and conversation. He was approaching a crossroad where the scenes synergized into a single moment of truth. Would this pursuit of understanding and reconciliation unlock the door to healing, or would it irrevocably splinter what was left? As he closed his eyes against the weight of the night, questions pulsed through him, demanding answers he wasn't yet sure he was ready to face. The true test awaited, and with it, the possibility of transformation. The next day, what he was about to hear from Sarah could either ignite a path of renewal or bar the door on the hope he dared to foster. Jack awoke to an invigorating burst of daylight, illuminating the half-finished mural he had worked tirelessly to complete. Each stroke of vibrant color captured the complex emotions he had navigated in the past weeks: hope, fear, determination. Today represented a turning point, the culmination of not only artistic effort, but also the vulnerability he was ready to embrace as he prepared to meet Sarah. Every heartbeat echoed with anticipation. As he sat across the table from her at the cozy coffee shop where they first met, he felt the heaviness of unspoken words hover between them. Sarah's eyes held a depth he hadn't noticed before, perhaps a reflection of her own courage to confront the uncertainty they both faced. "Thanks for agreeing to meet," she began, her voice steadier than Jack expected. "I've been thinking about how we've gotten to this point. It's overwhelming." Jack nodded, recognizing their shared struggle. "I know. But what if we could turn that overwhelm into something constructive? I have an idea I want to present, something that could connect us back with our community." Intrigued, Sarah tilted her head, prompting him to continue. He took a deep breath and outlined the concept of the mural, a symbol of their journey and a platform for others to step forward and express their truths. "Imagine it as a mural of hope," Jack explained passionately, "a place where people can share their stories, fears, and dreams. Art doesn't just decorate a wall, it can spark discussions, rebuild connections, and heal." He watched her expression shift, curiosity intertwining with skepticism. "You really believe that just painting will help people connect? That it'll allow them to share their burdens?" The challenge in her question gripped his heart, but instead of retreating, he felt the fire of conviction rise. It's not just about the physical act, it's what it represents. We can show people that even amidst uncertainty, they are not alone. We're all battling something, but together we can stand tall. Sarah's brow furrowed in contemplation as Jack's words sunk in. In the shared silence, he could see the walls she had built around herself begin to waver. The fear and doubt that had once permeated their interactions were now competing with a glimmer of hope. "I want to see this community come together," he added, "including my kids, Lily, Maggie, and Ethan. This mural could be a family project. We can gather the community and invite everyone to contribute, making it a shared representation of who we are." Sarah's demeanor shifted. "That's a beautiful idea," she replied, a hint of warmth warming her voice. "But Jack, we have to ensure this doesn't become just another token gesture. Our actions need to be genuine." His heart surged as he recognized her sincerity. This wasn't just a critique, but a challenge to honor the mission. "Let's commit to genuine dialogue," Jack offered earnestly. "The mural can embrace our stories. We can host meetings where others express their struggles and connect over art. Today isn't just about painting, it's the start of rebuilding." As they spoke, the barriers that had once felt insurmountable began to dissipate, replaced with shared visions and mutual aspirations. Jack felt a newfound connection with Sarah. They were no longer merely grappling with doubts, but working on creating pathways that provided hope for their futures. In the days that followed, they spent evenings together brainstorming. Ideas flowed like the paint on their brushes, tentative yet vibrant. They began inviting neighbors to join in discussions about their own journeys, blending personal narratives with artistic expression. The mural slowly transformed into a beacon for their community, serving as a canvas where hope could take form. Jack's heart swelled with pride as he witnessed the connections burgeoning around him. Each gathering unearthed stories and struggles, all woven seamlessly into the mural. Voices that had once felt silenced now rang out, echoing against the vivid backdrop they were bringing to life.
As the piece neared completion, he noticed how the beauty of collaboration reframed his understanding of success. The idea of personal achievement morphed into something larger than himself. This was about fostering a space for community and healing. The defining moment arrived when, surrounded by friends, neighbors, and children, they unveiled the completed mural. Faces reflected fascination and awe. Narratives painted not just in colors, but in empathy and connection. The mural became a testament not only to their personal journeys, but a communal tapestry of resilience and hope. Jack beamed with solid confidence, recognized not just for the beauty of art, but for his role as a leader in rekindling the bonds of their community, dissolving the isolation he had once felt into a renewed sense of belonging. As they all celebrated, Jack felt layers of weight lift from his shoulders, replaced by assurance that vulnerability was indeed strength. He finally grasped that allowing joy back into his life did not diminish the memory of his wife. Instead, it honored her by forging new connections, fostering happiness where once there was suffocating grief. Jack's journey, marked by echoes of silence and uncertainty, had transformed into a narrative of grit, validation, and communal resilience, embodying the very essence of American spirit. Now was the time for action beyond mere reflection. If you've been inspired by Jack's journey and the power of community, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to ensure you don't miss out on our next exclusive stories that explore transformation and resilience. Leave a like to support the algorithm, spreading these messages further. Comment below with your thoughts. How do you connect with Jack's story? And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need a dose of hope and inspiration in their lives. Your support shapes the future of these narratives.